Hello you lovely bastards, welcome to Fixin Rusty Stuff, Tools for Men. This will be the first video in a new series exploring the wonderful world of tools, or as I call them, Fixin's little helpers. Actually that's bollocks, I just call them tools, it's way quicker. I was looking at my YouTube analytics recently and discovered that I seem to have a very singular audience demographic. Yeah, 100% males aged 35 to 44. Whatever happened to diversity, lads? I was expecting at least one DIY addicted grandma. Now the analytics came as quite a surprise to me, as I'm actually an 18-year-old lesbian, but admittedly my voice is deceiving. Anyway, enough about my fantasies. Today we've got an action-packed episode looking at Makita Combi Drills. We're going to do a tear down and clean up of an old Makita drill, including a minor repair to a sticky reverse switch. We're going to change some carbon brushes, which may resurrect a dying drill. We're going to compare an high-end Makita with a cheap as chips model to see if the extra dough is worth the throw. And I know you didn't come here for a history lesson, but tough shit, because we're going to look at the origins of Makita and how they came to be the mighty toolmaker they are today. So if you click the thumbnail for a how-to and don't want to hear any fascinating facts about Makita, then you know the drill. Skip to the relevant timestamp shown on the screen now and click the like button immediately. On the other hand, if hearing me talk bollocks about Makita drills and why they're the dog's testes sounds more inviting than a hot tub full of supermodels and a van full of cold beer, then let's get to it. The history of Makita Corporation is a mysterious one. Legend has it, and I believe Wikipedia too, that in the year 1915 the bombs of the First World War were so epic that a 3,000-year-old immortal samurai was awoken from his slumber in Japan. Masaburo Makita, an ancient blade-wielding badass, shook off a few centuries of dust and staggered from his cave down a mountainside and into the bustling city of Nagoya. Masaburo wasn't your average sword-swinging samurai. To atone for his past sins, presumably of chopping people up with a samurai sword, instead of opening a vegan cafe or starting a meditation app, he founded Makita Electric Works in an effort to bring light to the world. Yup, because nothing says redemption like repairing light fittings. Upcycling lamps, link in the description. Soon enough, Masaburo progressed from fixing rusty stuff and moved on to creating motors, transformers and generators. According to legend, he could solder wires together just by touching them, and his art was made of copper wires wrapped around an iron core. Makita Electric Works grew, and its first international shipment of motors and generators was sent to the USSR in 1935. Supporting the bloody commies. In spite of Masaburo's questionable choices, Makita grew like a pervert's pants in a strip club, and in 1962 changed the trading name to Makita Electric Works Limited and went public on the Nagoya Stock Exchange. In '69, Makita brought the world's first rechargeable battery powered drill to the retail market, with the battery terminals on every unit said to have been soldered by Makita's very own electrified fingers. The massive battery box was attached to the drill by a cord, and it only took 2 grown men to carry it. Makita Electric Works Limited went on to become Makita Corp, the global tool powerhouse we know and love, opening subsidiaries around the world. You won't find the date of Masaburo Makita's death anywhere on the interwebs though. According to the legend, shortly after his revolutionary battery drill took off, he vanished. He was last seen walking back up the mountain that he was fabled to have come from, and nobody has seen him since. Back to the drills. Here we have 2 models of Makita Combi Power Drill. This one is called the Phoenix on account of being saved from a scrappy. The Phoenix. But we'll start with my fave, which I'm going to call Big Daddy for obvious reasons. Big Daddy. You should always keep your power tools in good shape, so let's scrape this expanding foam off while I tell you that I bought Big Daddy off a shady Irish traveller in a Tesco's car park in Romford. It was brand new, so he definitely didn't steal it off a tradesman's van. It was much more likely to have been stolen out of a Screwfix or B&Q. He was offering it for 100 quid below retail, so I couldn't say no. It may not look it from how it's been abused, but I love Big Daddy. I should have chosen these names a bit more carefully. Anyway, its official name is a DHP 481, and noticeably it has a metal chuck, unlike its little sister the Phoenix. Its max fastening torque setting is 21 nipple twists, compared with a paltry 16 nipple twists on the Phoenix. The most noticeable difference between the two is that Big Daddy has a brushless motor. What does that mean to you? It means the drill's got more muscle than a bodybuilder on steroids. You get more butt for your bang. If you're drilling a particularly stubborn bit of wood, You could quite easily break your wrist from the kickback if the bit gets stuck in a knot, but at least you don't have to worry about changing brushes. Its max torque strength is 115 nuclear monsters with a no load speed of 2100 RPM, which stands for really painful mishaps and is what happens when the bit slips and your hand is in the wrong place. Being vastly heavier than the Phoenix, while indicating quality somewhat, it does make it harder to use above head height. I mean, let's face it, everyone's a hero until they have to screw something above their head for more than about 2 minutes. It's got the obligatory lights, one on each side, as opposed to the Phoenix, which has one in the centre. Same settings, hammer, drill and screw, hence being a combi. It's got 2 speeds, fast and faster. But mostly what I like about Big Daddy is that it's just the kind of drill you'd want to have squatting in the trench next to you when the Germans or French inevitably attempt another invasion. It's loyal, reliable, packs a punch and is ready to fight at any moment. Let's look at the Phoenix, which is officially known as the BHP 452. First, origin story. After a particularly fruitful skip diving session at work, my burly cousin gave me the irrefusable offer of, if you can fix it, you can keep it. It died and got thrown out by one of the fitters, and knowing my proclivity for fixing rusty stuff, he salvaged the treasure for me to use as an offering to the repair gods. She runs about as smooth as sandpaper toilet tissue. Nah, that's a bit unfair. She runs okay, she just doesn't have those big cojones like Big Daddy. Or this sheep. I've already lubed her up and changed the brushes, but we'll get into that later. She's louder and not as robust as Big Daddy. Note the plastic chucked with disdain. She's lighter, so easier to hold for the soy boys. Speed settings, turtle or cheetah. As mentioned, 16 nipple twists, which equates to about 50 nuclear monsters of torque. Her no load max speed is 1500 RPM, and she usually costs a touch more than 5 minutes rummaging around in a skip. The Phoenix is more the kind of drill that gives you a warm fuzzy feeling inside, knowing that you've always got her as a backup. But if you were ever to make her your main drill, you'd have to constantly lavish her with attention, spoiling her with cans of WD-40 and cuddles on the sofa watching Netflix. When comparing costs, let's ignore the batteries because we got enough of those to power the grid for 5 minutes anyway. We'll also look at current models on the market for an up-to-date comparison. These drills are on the complete opposite ends of the price range, with the Phoenix going for approximately 70 quid and Big Daddy costing about 3 times more at around the 200 quid mark. Now Big Daddy is superior in almost every way, but it really depends on your usage as to what's going to make more sense for you. If you're a tradesman, even if you're starting out, I'd definitely recommend something akin to Big Daddy's stature. On the other hand, this cheap brushed Makita Combi is good for a non-trade household. It's a solid combi drill, and if your bodges are infrequent or last resorts, it won't let you down. However, if you're a fully dedicated part-time bodger, maybe go for something at the lower end of the brushless market, like the Makita 484Z for around 130 quid. And now, time for a very brief intermission and a story about my ex-wife. Did I ever tell you about the time my ex-wife got done for shoplifting at a hardware store? The police searched her and found a ladder in her tights. Before we do the teardown and investigate the sticky reverse switch, let's change the carbon brushes. Take the 2 Phillips head screws out using an electrical or manual screw rotator and remove its arse cap. Now you're basically gazing into the very soul of the machine. Checking out the commutator and carbon brushes of a motor is like having a peek in a bird's knickers. Undeniably alluring, but a potentially horrific sight. These ones are in good shape as I already changed them, but if they're worn down to sad little impotent nubs, don't panic. Just use a flathead manual screw rotator to lift the spring arm aside, unclip the carbon brush from its tiny prison and pull it out. The brush, not your Johnson. Get your new brush, coax it into its little metal house, move the spring back into place, pushing the brush lovingly against the commutator and clip it back onto the housing like you know what you're doing. Top tip, there's usually a reverse threaded screw in here for removing the chuck. God knows where the fuck that's gone. Probably either snapped off or enjoying a holiday in a skip from which it came. I'll have to bribe my burly cousin with a pint to go back and look for it. Once finished, screw the arse cap back on, or tear it down completely for a bit more chaotic fun. There should be about 11 screws holding it all together in total. While I yank them out, I'm going to reminisce about the time I fell hopelessly in love with Makita. It was about 10 years ago. I was on a roof with some sparkies. I wasn't working myself, I was just walking me dog. It was unusually nice weather for the UK and pissing with rain. Their impact drivers had been sitting on the roof getting a light soak in for about 20 minutes while they bodged in a load of solar panels. When it was time to tighten up the clamps, it transpired that the only survivors of the drenching were the Makitas. There were more broken Milwaukee and DeWalt impact drivers strewn across that roof than in the Screwfix returns bin. Since that day I swore by Makita. If I'm going to abuse a power tool regularly, it's got to be one that laughs in the face of drizzle. Once all the screws are out, the case should fall apart faster than Keir Starmer's pledge not to raise taxes.
My dad was a tool maker.
Remove the drill pieces from its plastic womb, and if you're feeling really generous, give them a good scrub down. Take a look inside, it's all pretty straightforward. The 18 volt zaps up from the battery terminals into the switch, and then straight up into a MOSFET transistor, probably for pulse width modulation speed control. Then it heads straight up into the carbon brushes like it's off to the pub for a pint. Lovely. The simplicity of the design definitely gives it a leg up in terms of reliability. Right, let's have a look at that reverse switch. Oh, I see the problem. Someone's been banging this harder than my ex-wife and her 20-year-old lover used to while I was at work. A little squeeze and we should be good. Which is coincidentally what she said. Right, time to give these parts a good scrub and a nice warm bath, because who doesn't love a bit of pampering? I'll even try to de-rust the belt holder, although I'm not promising miracles on that one. Rust and I have a complicated relationship. But while I'm doing that, let's talk about why Makita drills are just so damn legendary. I could go on about the top tier build quality, the sleek design, the premium components, or the fact that Makita's been making motors since dinosaurs were filling out job applications. But according to the legend, the real secret sauce is that each Makita drill is infused with a tiny piece of Masaboru Makita's samurai soul. Yeah, every time you pull that trigger, Masaboru's sending some serious samurai vibes from the underworld. That's why these things are practically indestructible. It's not just power, it's samurai honour in your hands. Now that they're all squeaky clean, let's slap this thing back together. And now we're all back together, let's see how she looks. Well, she ain't winning any best kept drill beauty pageants, but it's definitely an improvement on her former trampy just got pulled out of a skip look. Well, lovely people, thanks for watching. If you found that in the slightest bit entertaining, drill that like button, screw the subscription button, share it with your favourite Immortal Samurai, and stay tuned for the next episode of Fixin Rusty Stuff, Tools for Men.